Harold here. Today I want to talk to you about some more of the improvements in version 4.0 of Tailwind CSS released in January 2025. And one of my favorite things is you can now make cool things like this using the new Tailwind Gradient classes in version 4.0. So let's go over to VS Code and I'll show you how. My setup is I'm running the Next.js app on VS Code, uh, Next.js 15, Tailwind CSS 4.0. You can clone my repo on GitHub. I'll put a link in the description. Or if you want to follow along, Tailwind has a great site where you can just write CSS or HTML and play around. You just go to play.tailwindcss.com, delete this thing, and you can just start going H1 hello world and your CSS and your HTML appear right here. You want to style it, say class equals text red 500, bam. So you can just follow along in here instead of doing a whole new Next.js app. I will tell you one, you can't use class, you have to use class name, but you'll see that in a second. So if you want to follow on with Tailwind Play, go ahead. And the first, I'm going to give you a little refresher on backgrounds. First one is image. You want a background image. In my Next.js app, page TSX, export default function background page. I'm just returning a div. The tailwind for covering the background is just bg URL of the logo if it's in your public folder. And you want to do bg no repeat, bg center, bg cover, H screen, W screen. So that's a really common use of background image. Today I want to talk more about the gradient background images. So I'm going to start with standard. So before when we did this, we're going to use the directional right. It used to be just bg gradient. Now they've split it up into bg linear, radial, and conic. So for linear, gradient left to right or top to bottom. And now say linear. Well, the old way was just bg gradient. And you would say something like to R, and then give it a color range. So from violet 200 to say purple 700. So to right, it's going from that light violet to the deeper purple. That's the old way. Now, instead of a gradient, when we do a linear, say linear. To right. So that's not much of a difference. Still doing the same thing, just use linear instead of gradient. The difference is now you can use angles. So I can now say bg linear, give it an angle argument, 270, and then say from violet 200 to purple 700. Where that came from. So we'll save that. Now I use an angle. 270 is west or left. So you can see it's now going from angle of 270 from light to dark purple. You can mess around with those, change them to 120. So change a little. If you want to make it just to right with an angle, use 90. But the great thing here is, so that's now the same as the one before. The great thing here is you get a lot more exactness, specificity by being able to give it an exact angle. So that's linear. I'm going to give you a refresher on color stops before we move on to Conic and Radial, because I'm going to use a lot of those. Before I do that, I want to show you a chart here. This is an HSL color wheel. Before, when I was speaking about angles, helps illustrate that too. 90 is to the right, 270 is to the left, 0 to the top, 180 is to the bottom. But back to the color wheel. This is an HSL color wheel. It's arranged by hue. HSL stands for hue, saturation, and lightness. So when you're doing these gradients, you want to move around the wheel to get the best gradient fades. We were in here in the purple to light before, violet to purple. And you can choose what direction you go around the wheel, and some of those too, I'll show you that. So let's go back to color stops. We got my color stops page and page TSX, and let's get our color stops blank. So color stops are, I just went from violet to purple. You can tell it where to stop in the middle, like first place on the wheel, make a stop on the wheel through that, and then go on to the end using via. So you can set stops from one color via another color to another color. So I'll show you that using via. Just going to add to my class name. Just going to change my BG to linear to linear to right, and from cyan 400. Let's spell cyan right. Via emerald 400 to, and we'll say line 400. So different shades of green. So it's moving linearly from cyan via emerald to line. Another thing you can do is make it more precise. Go down here, I could say from cyan 400 from, let's say, 20%. So cyan 400 to 20%. And then here you say to emerald instead of via emerald, to emerald 400 via 40%. And to emerald, and to lime 400 to, let's say, 90%. I don't need an and, I said that. So that's a little bit more precise. The cyan stops at 20, emerald stops at 40, and lime pretty much goes to the end. But so that is color stops. You see how we're moving along the wheel in that direction. So the next thing, and now these get really cool, is radial. And I've got blanks, got a radial HTSX. So I just got 3 white circles. These are the fun ones. So instead of linear, the second one we have is radial. And you can use the froms, the stops, the twos to do this also. So let's make one look kind of like a fiery sun if we can. So I could say from orange 400, from 30%, via red 500, to let's say yellow 300. Cool, already looking like a. Let's try some other ones. See how it's radial. It's going around. Let's make some cool balls. We could say something like radial. Let's say, and you can do these ranges in your percentages too. So in brackets, at underscore 50% underscore 75%. At 50 bg-radial at 75%. From let's pick a green lime 200 via emerald 400 to green 900. And let's take it up to 90%. That's a pretty cool looking green ball, kind of looking like planets. Let's try a silvery white one. Let's say radial. Flip it around. Flip these percentages a little. Oh, that underscore 25% underscore. I'm gonna another 25% from white to red to about 75%. So you can play with these. There's a cool looking silvery ball, cool looking green ball, and a red fiery sunset. I really like these. But I like even better, and this is the one I use for the example, is Conic. So Conic, so you go to the example, give that 3D cone effect. Got another page TSX, simple React default React function. Uh, so let's modify these. So let's modify these white circles and make them look cool like cones. Let's try a green one first. So instead of linear or radial, let's say conic. And you say from emerald 400 to line 400. And up to 50%. Try that, see what it looks like. So that's kind of a pie green. You can definitely tell where it begins and ends, going from lime to emerald, emerald to lime. Let's try. Let's try a little different. Let's try a little different. Something different with that green. So now I want to try BG. Let's give it a little different look. Conic. 180 and give it an angle there. Just go in the docs and play around with these. From Emerald 600, I'm going to take it down by Emerald. So we're changing a lighter hues here by way of Emerald 50, the real light one, and back to Emerald 600. This gives kind of a cooler metallic effect. So there's a green symbol. That's pretty cool. Like my shield. So that's probably what you want to use for the shield. Just mess around with these values. I think I use stone. You want to go try it on your own. And the last one is, and I'm going to show you how to do the wheel. And I'll show you what this decreasing means in a second. But I'm going to give you the rainbow symbol. Not SYMBOL, CYMBAL. The rainbow looking kind of thing. So it's going to be bg-conic. It's going to be decreasing. I'll tell you why I decreasing in a second. It's decreasing from violet. So Roy G. Biv, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. The end of the rainbow from violet 700 by way of via line 300. We're on the wheel. Back to violet. So it's taking a full trip around that color wheel, and it's a rainbow symbol. Cool. So you see how it started at violet, went to green, and back to violet, took the whole way around the wheel, but it went backwards. So that's kind of cool. It could have gone from violet to violet right there, not gone anywhere, but since we sent it all the way around with decreasing, we got the whole rainbow. Now, another cool thing in version 4.0 of Tailwind CSS is interpolation. What do you mean by that? Well, I'll show you. I'm just going to explain these and show you the CSS and the page TSX. Interpolation. And then we go to the interpolation tab. So interpolation has to deal with what color palette they're using in Tailwind 3.0 and before. The default color palette was this standard RGB red, green, blue. Other palettes include HSL, oklab, oklch, longer, shorter, increasing, and decreasing. Those are all available as interpolation arguments. Let's go through them one by one. So you see here in my p tag, or my div, after the linear to R, I added srgb, standard red, green, and blue. That was the default before 4.0. If you look at these, you can definitely tell, look closely, that there's more brightness, lightness, more of a range of colors in these OK ones, and even HSL than there is in the srgb. You got to really look at them, but there is a lot, these colors here are a lot more optimized for the newer display we have. So you could say HSL, and it gives you hue, saturation, and lightness. You could say oklab, and that's optimized Bjorn Ottesen, who they called K, lightness A, green and red be blue and yellow. Or the new default, you don't have to put this one all, is OKLCH. It's the OK lightness, color, and hue. That is default for the interpolation argument in BG linear, Conic Radial for version 4.0 Tailwind CSS. It's a really vibrant color scheme. And longer and increasing, what they're doing is longer, it's going from cyan to lime around the wheel backwards. So cyan and lime, if you look back at the wheel or here, it's taking from cyan to lime, but it's going this way. So the shorter and the increasing are going the short route, and the decreasing and longer are going the long way around the wheel. That's giving you the rainbow effect. So longer went the long way around from blue to lime, gave you a rainbow. Shorter went the shorter blue to lime. Decreasing, just different ways to say it. That the improvements in Tailwind CSS version 4 for background gradients. Hope you like this. If you did, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Thanks, everybody.